I really enjoy the sights and sounds of Christmas each and every year, whether it be the decorations, the wonderful things you can eat and drink at this time of the year, and the good fellowship among people. Those are my favorite things at Christmas time in the past and also today as well.
When I was a kid, my mom used to make all these special Christmas candies and stuff and sweets. And she used to make this stuff. It was with corn flakes, and she'd use green color dye, food dye, and she'd put red hots in them and make wreaths out of them. And they were my favorite. What else? Oh, we used to go to midnight mass, and after mass we'd open presents, and we'd go to bed and then get up as early as we could because Santa would have been there, and there would have been more presents under the tree for us. So I remember that. And just wish everybody a Merry Christmas and peace on earth, I guess.
Growing up, we always went to my grandpa and grandma's house in Hillsboro, and they lived on this little island, and their house was connected to where the city park was. And in the city park, they had a skating rink, and they had deer that were like penned up. And I remember always getting apples and carrots and going with all my cousins and walking down there and feeding the deer and going ice skating and just spending the time with my cousins.
One of my favorite Christmas memories growing up would be lutefisk. Every single year, my dad was big into lutefisk, and he would soak it in lye himself in the house and cook it every year, and him and my brother would just gobble it up. I would try to bite every year, but that's as far as I would go. But it is a strong Christmas memory, lutefisk in the Dahl family.
Man, you know, when you asked me this question a couple days ago, just a lot of thinking about what do I remember from Christmas and what really stands out. And I told you one of the quick stories, and that's my mom always makes me something every year, be it a sweater or a pillowcase, anything handmade clothing. And she puts a little tiny heart, like an emoji heart, inside somewhere so that when you put your hand in your pocket or you're laying on your pillow, you have that heart. And that kind of just, you know, is always going to be there to remind me of my mom, you know, as time passes along. She's my only family. And I think that's really cool that she's done that. But I really, really thought, and the biggest memory I have is my Uncle Harold and Aunt Sadie, God rest their souls. They would go, I believe it was like Mills Fleet Farm or someplace that had their big toy, or Ace Hardware, one of those places. And they would go and they'd get the weirdest toys you've ever heard of. And one of the coolest toys they got me, see if you can get in on that, I took a licking from a chicken. And this is a tic-tac-toe game that you play against the chicken. And I remember sitting on this really ugly yellow couch with my Uncle Harold. And I would sit there and we would play this for hours and hours and hours. And the chicken is good. It literally took me like years to beat the chicken finally. But they always got me the weirdest stuff. I've never seen this toy again. And it was just funny. It's just a fun memory to sit there with my Uncle Harold while Aunt Sadie would fall asleep on the couch, and usually holding my Frankenstein doll and my little vampire dolls that she got me. She would pass out. It was great. Christmas is just memorable, not only with my mom, but with the small amount of family that I did have.
Oh gosh, my favorite Christmas memory is with growing up. My mother would literally pull everything off the walls. Everything would come off the tables, and she would redecorate the entire house. And it was literally a winter wonderland. And to this day, when you walk into my mother's home, it still feels like Christmas.
Some of my favorite memories growing up was when I went to my grandma's house. Big family, small house. It was cramped, but it was fun. Kids running around, joking, laughing, playing tag. You know, the adults kind of get after you. You know, say, oh, they're going to break something. But it was fun. Now with my own family, things that I never did growing up, cutting our own Christmas tree down, decorating cookies, you know, getting some hot chocolate, turn on some Christmas music, and drive around and look at lights. So to me, it's taken a little bit of what we used to do and add in some new things. I mean, it's mostly just spending time as a family together.
Yeah, one Christmas memory that I have is when I got a toboggan for Christmas, and all 6 of us kids went out to a hill in the Wilmer area where I grew up, and we all got involved in that and went out on the hill. My dad even got involved with that as well, going down. My dad was probably well into his late 40s, early 50s at the time. He actually even water skied into his 60s. And the fact that he passed away this year, it makes that memory, I think, a little more heartfelt this year. So from our family to yours, my wife and I, Tracy, Merry Christmas.
There were a lot of great memories as a little kid, but I love as a parent how we'd always do the same thing every year. We'd get the kids in the car, we'd drive all over Alexandria and look at Christmas lights. And so we'd look at all the different lights and doing all the different things. And right before we left to go on this little trip to look at the lights, I always had to go back in the house to get something. And it wasn't until years later that the kids realized why I always had to go in the house to get something, because we'd come back. And of course I had to leave the cookies out for Santa Claus, because when we left, Santa showed up. So it was just a lot of fun. We'd come back, a lot of celebration, a lot of singing and fun. It was just, I love those times, and I miss those, but we've got grandkids on the way, baby. Merry Christmas, everyone.
When I was growing up here in Alexandria, the stores downtown were open until 9 o'clock on Friday night. One Friday night, my friend and I decided we'd go down Christmas shopping. We came out of a store in the 600 block, and the street lights were just beautiful as usual, and it just started to snow lightly, and there were the Jefferson High School carolers singing Christmas songs as they walked down the sidewalk. We were just overcome with the spirit of Christmas. It's one of my favorite Christmas memories, and it always will be.
So one of my very first years in radio, I wound up working Christmas Eve night, and at 10 p.m., the 10 p.m. road report came out, and all of the roads closed. And so I was snowed in at the radio station on Christmas Eve. Fell asleep on the couch at the office. And the overnight guy woke me up at 4 a.m. saying, "The plows are out, the plows are out." And so I got in my little car and I followed a snowplow all the way to Ortonville, Minnesota, a 2-hour drive from Aberdeen, where I was working, and made it to have Christmas morning with my family. It was really one of those things. Years later, found out my mom had written the whole story out as I had told her what had happened, and she kept that as a nice memory.